Hi, everybody. Today I'm a little bit more organized. Okay, today we are starting on reading number 8, and we are going to be reading episode 17 to start with, and it's called Date Night. Remember, it's Alden and Stella's anniversary. Stella forgot this year, Alden forgot the year before. So, anyway, here we go. Annie and Nettie showed up. Between them, Between them, they scooped up the children and took them all home for the night. Stella had no idea where they were going, but she had to admit that she was excited. It was a Friday night, no kids, and dressing up. Things were looking up. Stella showered. She looked through her closet. She had nothing to wear. Stella spotted a box up on the top shelf. She had forgotten about that dress. Nettie had gifted this dress to Stella. She said that she saw it in a store window and it called to her. She said it had Stella written all over it. Stella pulled the box down, laid it on the bed, and opened the box. Stella shook her head. She was not so sure. The dress stopped just above the knee, deep velvet red, that left her shoulders bare. Honestly, she had never tried it on. On some level, this form-fitting dress scared her to death. Stella put on her strapless bra and matching panties. She slid on her nylons. She could not wear a slip with it because it had a big slit up the front right leg. Not a long one, but the slip would show. Stella pulled the dress up, then she struggled to zip it up. With some wiggles and twists, she managed it. Stella turned to her full-length mirror. Stella's hair had always been her crowning glory, dark chestnut waves that reached her waist. Stella loosely French braided her hair. When she was done, she pulled strands to frame her face. Stella held up a mirror to add small ruby red hair clips in specific spots throughout her hair. Her makeup was a bit bolder than usual to match the dress. She had to admit, she had never looked better. The color of the dress looked rich and touchable. Her dark eyes seemed to pop tonight with excitement. Stella grabbed a black clutch purse to match her black 3-inch heels. Stella stepped out and stood between the living room and dining room. Alden was seated at the table looking at his cell phone, waiting on her. Alden looked up. He dropped his phone and his jaw at the same time. Alden stood up slowly, eyeing his beautiful wife. Stella made a slow turn so that her man could see her from all angles. She smiled seductively and waited for him to say something, anything. Alden sat back down. Stella's smile faltered. Alden, should I change? You don't like it? Alden shot back up. Don't you dare. Honestly, honey, I sat back down because you made my knees go weak. You look incredible. Then Alden scowled. Stella laughed. If I look so wonderful, why are you scowling like that? Stella wanted to know. Alden smiled slightly. I'm not so sure I want all of those men out there oogling you. Alden looked very possessive. You're a nut. Where are we going? You never said. You just said dress up. We are going to Shay's place. Stella gaped at Alden. But you have to have a reservation like a year in advance. Well, not quite, but it is hard to get a table there. Alden nodded. That is why I booked this table a year ago. When I forgot our anniversary last year, I thought I should make up for that. Alden looked a bit sheepish. Stella raised her hand to her mouth, shook her head in disgust. Then I forgot this year. I feel so bad, honey, Stella said sadly. Alden put his arm around Stella. Well, then we're even. Truth is, you have had your hands full lately. Before we go, I want to give you your gift. You got me a gift, Alden? I don't have anything for you. Alden shook his head. Don't worry about it, babe. I had no idea when I bought this for you that it would match your dress so well, Alden stated. Stella sat down at the table. She took the velvet rectangular box from Alden. What did you do? This is obviously jewelry. Stella wiggled with excitement. She absolutely adores jewelry. Stella lifted the lid. Resting in the box was a perfect heart-shaped ruby with diamonds encircling it. Stella gasped. My birthstone. I love it. Stella squealed with excitement. Stella jumped up and kissed Alden fiercely. I love you. Thank you so much. Alden smiled. He brought his left hand out from behind his back. This time the jewelry box was smaller. What? Alden? Oh my goodness. Stella took the box and sat back down. Now my knees are weak, Stella admitted. Stella opened the box. There, resting inside, was a matching set of earrings. Stella was so quiet that Alden leaned over to get a look at her face. You okay, honey? Alden said with worry. Still, Stella remained quiet, just gazing at the earrings. Honey, girl, you need to say something. I'm getting a bit nervous here. Stella looked up. Her eyes glistened with moisture. I really love these, but know that I love you more. I was sitting here looking at these gifts and thinking back to when we first met. Stella smiled through her tears. We were in preschool. I acted like I didn't like you much because my best girlfriend didn't like boys. Truth be told, I liked you even then. Alden smiled, remembering back as well. I liked you too, Alden whispered. Stella continued. I remember one day I wasn't feeling too good. My mom was away from home for a week. She was a traveling nurse. One week she would go into Grand Rapids, the next week Fremont. But for a week she was at a convention. I missed her so much that I felt ill. Alden nodded. I remember that. And being a kid, I had no idea what was wrong with you. I just remember thinking that I was scared that you were sick. I worried that you might have to go to the hospital, Alden said. So you told the teacher I wasn't feeling well. I remember you seemed panicked. You shouted at Mrs. Frame and told her she should call an ambulance. Stella grinned. They both started laughing at that. Stella grew serious. I've loved you my whole life, Alden. I've raged at you, laughed with you. We've built this life together. It has not always been perfect. I want you to know you are my everything, you and the kids, Stella stated. Alden leaned down, kissing his wife gently on the lips. I've loved you my whole life, too. Yes, you raged at me, but I deserved it. I've laughed with you. I've also been laughed at by you, Stella grinned. Alden went on to say, we have built this crazy, out of control, madcap family. It's not perfect, but I want you to know I have no regrets. Stella stood up, took her husband's hand. Well, if we are going to get to Shay's place, we better get going. I am starving, Stella declared. The restaurant was everything Stella could have ever dreamed of. Mood lighting, fantastic food. They drank wine and talked about everything. They did avoid talking about work or any troubles. They made tonight a celebration of their lives together. Suddenly Stella sat up straighter. Alden, we have both been drinking. We live an hour away from here. What are we going to do? Stella worried. No worries, honey. I booked us a room and packed you an overnight bag. We are leaving the car here and grabbing a cab to the hotel. The kids are being taken care of till tomorrow night. Chuck Barnes is taking care of the farm tomorrow. We even get to sleep in. Then we are going to do some shopping, wherever you wish. We have the whole day to ourselves. Stella smiled with delight. Well, in that case, I would very much like another glass of wine, Stella said. Alden poured another glass of wine for Stella and another for himself. After their meal, they took a turn on the dance floor. Soon they were ready to go. In the cab, Alden asked Stella, so, did Shay's place live up to your expectations, hon? Stella smiled. Oh, yes, it was wonderful. We should do this every year, Stella exclaimed. Alden slid his arm around Stella. I already booked the reservation for next year. But next year we are going to take a whole weekend, not just one night, Alden promised. Stella smiled with happiness. The cab pulled up to the hotel. The building, sleek in design, it rose majestically into the air overlooking the Grand River. The lights from the hotel reflected beautifully on the water. Inside, beautiful, luxurious seating areas adorned the main area. Walls of glass allow the city lights to shine in, incredible views from every direction. The room that they were given had a huge bed. The walls were made of glass. Shades could be pulled shut for privacy, but at night the view was breathtaking. Their king suite faced the Grand River. It could not have been more perfect. Their room had a 62-inch screen TV, surround sound, a huge jacuzzi tub, and a stocked bar. When Stella pulled back the bedding, the sheets felt like heaven. Alden smiled, seeing his wife roll around on the bed, enjoying the rich feel of awfully expensive sheets. Alden, we have got to get us some of these sheets. I feel like I am in heaven, Stella purred. This hotel also has spa treatments, a eucalyptus steam room, a gym that is open 24/7, and when I say gym, I mean it is huge. It has every kind of machine you can think of. Best of all, a huge indoor pool that is heated. Stella sat up, eager to check it out. Oh, yes, I cannot wait to get in the pool. They quickly changed into their suits. When they got to the pool, Stella placed her toes in. It was so warm. I always dread going in. You have to get used to it, but this is incredible, Stella said with excitement. They swam for an hour. Alden did some laps. Stella enjoyed watching him swim. She was not a good swimmer. Alden made it look effortless. He would kick, roll his arms forward, powerful muscles rolling. He would turn his head to breathe, then turn and go back the other way. It was quite soothing to watch. Plus, he was easy on the eyes. When they were done, they dried off. A handful of people walked in just as they were headed out. When they got back to their room, Alden used the key card to let them in. Stella showered. She wrapped a towel around herself. Alden jumped in the shower after her. Stella dug through the suitcase looking for her pajamas, but everything she pulled out was skimpy and lacy. Stella shook her head. Alrighty then, she knew what Alden had on his mind. Stella grabbed the royal blue panties with the matching lace baby doll top. It did not leave much to the imagination, but she figured that was what he had in mind. Stella checked the mirror. She had to admit, she looked good. She liked the top. It was lacy and it covered her belly. She was a bit self conscious because of her stretch marks, but Alden said they were nothing to be ashamed of. Stella lowered the lighting. Then she decided to lower it a little bit more. The atmosphere reminded her of candlelight. Stella laid on the bed. She had to admit that she was feeling a bit insecure. Getting older was kind of a romance killer. Stella changed to her side, then back to her back. She bent one knee. Then she scooted up on the bed to the middle of the bed, back to a sitting position. She kept her leg bent and draped her arms across the pillows on each side of her. Stella figured this seductive pose would have to do. Stella covered her face with her hands, trying not to giggle out loud. Just as Stella got back into position, Alden stepped out with a towel around his hips. I see you packed me some nightwear, Stella whispered. Alden grinned. You like it? I hope so. Because, honey, I really like it, Alden said, his voice deepening. Stella smiled seductively. She hoped she sounded seductive. Are you planning on standing there all night? Or are you going to come on over here and join me? Stella crooked her finger at Alden playfully. Alden dropped his towel and dove onto the bed. He wrapped his arms around his wife, kissing her passionately. It was not a slow or gentle kiss. It was the kind of kiss that a man gives a woman when he is starved for her. Stella kissed him back just as passionately. She broke the kiss to say, I've missed you. I've missed this. I've missed us, Stella gasped. Me too, baby, Alden said with feeling. Chapter 18, End of Summer. After their wonderful anniversary dinner and hotel stay, life got back on the crazy train. Stella was shopping for school clothes. She was smart and only took 2 kids at a time. She made them try everything on, even though they grumbled. Stella was standing in the men's aisle. Her boys did not fit into kids' clothes anymore. She could not believe how big they were. AJ is now 14, going into the ninth grade. Ben almost 13, going into the 8th grade. This coming school year, they would be in different schools, AJ in the high school and Ben in the middle school. AJ at 14 is almost as tall as his dad. He shot up during the summer and was already filling out, shoulders getting broader. Ben was almost as tall as AJ, but a bit thinner. AJ walked up and threw something in the cart. Ben also. Stella picked up what they tossed in and her eyebrows rose. A cup? You need this for Jim, I'm assuming? Stella questioned. AJ did not turn red or act embarrassed. Ben either. Her boys were so uninhibited. Yep, but I wear it all day, AJ said. Stella looked flabbergasted. Flabbergasted. Why would you do that? Stella asked. AJ grinned at his mom and explained, every time I run into one of my friends from school, they straighten out their middle finger and smack me in my man parts. It was something we were all doing last year, and it carried over into this summer, so I am just trying to be prepared. Stella was furious. What? Why would they do that? Are they brain damaged? Stella hollered. AJ laughed. Calm down, Ma. It's just something us guys do. We don't punch each other there. It's sort of like a think fast, move even faster game. Stella shook her head, still upset with this stupid game that these boys were playing. So, you wear it all day long, just in case someone tags you. Is that about right? Stella asked. AJ and Ben grinned, arms crossed, trying to look manly. Ben spoke up. The first time one of those guys hits me in my nut, Stella glared. I mean privates. It won't hurt me. It will hurt them, Ben said with glee. AJ joined in. They are going to think twice about hitting Ben or I down there ever again, AJ stated. Stella rolled her eyes and sighed. Okay, guys, let's head home. I'm going to drop you two off and bring the twins. I am not looking forward to that. After Stella rotated all the kids and got all the school shopping done, Stella picked up burgers, fries, and shakes for dinner. She sailed in with it, and everyone chowed down. Alden finished eating. He looked up at Stella and told her about the phone call he had gotten. Mrs. Fitz, the school counselor, called. Said she sent you a letter about Elijah at the end of last year, but you never responded. Stella looked stumped. She never sent me a letter. I have no idea. Did she leave a number for me to call her back? No, she said if we could be at the school tomorrow at 2, then she would be there setting up her office. I told her we would be there, that I was sure that you would be okay with it. Stella seemed thoughtful. Yeah, that's fine. I admit I'm a bit curious. Stella turned towards AJ. I'm going to need you to watch the kids, you and Ben. We're going to take Elijah with us. You two watch the twins and Francine, please. AJ nodded his head. Will do, Ma. No problem, AJ said. Alden spoke up. Ben, help your brother, but don't be bossy. Caleb and David, yes, you must listen to AJ and Ben. I would appreciate it if you kids would straighten up your rooms, wipe down your bathrooms again, and get everything ready for school next week. AJ nodded again. Don't worry, Dad. We got this. Meeting with Mrs. Fitz. Wait, what are you saying? Stella asked. Mrs. Fitz smiled slightly and explained again. Elijah won't do his work. He does 3 math problems and pushes it away, refusing to do the whole page. He won't read out loud. I thought that he was struggling. This has been a problem that has gone on for quite a while. So I set Elijah up for some testing. Stella seemed annoyed. You mean you can just pull my child out of class and just start testing him without talking to us first? Stella was a bit irritated. Mrs. Fitz looked shocked. Oh, no, not at all, Mrs. Westman. I talked to Mr. Westman on the phone towards the end of last year. He gave us the okay to have Elijah tested. Stella's eyes whipped to Alden. Why am I just now hearing about this, Alden? Stella demanded. Alden looked cornered. He smiled sheepishly. I forgot to tell you, honey. She explained it to me at the time, but I was running out the door for one of my sales trips, and it slipped my mind. Stella sighed. Okay, well, what's done is done. What is wrong? Does he have a learning disability? Mrs. Fitz chuckled. Oh, no, not at all. In fact, I would like to show you something. Mrs. Fitz pulled out a folder. Inside the folder was a sheet of paper. She slid it over to Elijah. Here, Elijah, could you do these math problems for me? Elijah eyed the paper. Mrs. Fitz showed him how to do the first one. She watched to make sure that he understood. Then she let him work on the next few by himself. Elijah did 3 of the problems and pushed the paper away. Alden did not know what was going on here. Son, she told you to do all those math problems you need to finish. Eliza just gave his father a curious stare and refused to pick up the pencil. Stella also did not understand. Elijah, you need to finish those problems. Stella was confused too. Elijah frowned. He shook his head no. They are all the same, Elijah stated in a very adult tone. Stella looked at the page. Yes, but you need to finish up, please. Stella tried again to get Elijah to listen, but he would not budge. Alden leans towards his son. Elijah, can you tell me what the problem is here? Alden asked. Elijah tilted his head slightly. He adjusted his glasses, then sat up a bit straighter. They are all the same problem. You do them all the same way. By doing those three, I understand the concept. I don't need to do them all. Teach me something else. Teach me something I do not know, something new. Stella and Alden were stunned. Mrs. Fitz smiled. I thought that maybe he just hated school. Honestly, I was uncertain what was going on. I had him tested and come to find out, Elijah is indeed bored. He is technically going into the third grade, but he is testing at a fifth grade level, almost at a sixth grade level. Stella and Alden were shocked. Well, what does this mean? What do we do about this? Alden asked. Mrs. Fitz turned to Elijah. This is all about you, Elijah. What are your thoughts on this? School is too easy for you. You are bored. You are an extremely intelligent, gifted child. We could move you to the fifth grade. Stella gasped at hearing this. Mrs. Fitz continued, You would be in the same grade as Caleb and David. I do worry that you are much younger and that you are smaller than the other children. Mrs. Fitz looked back at Stella and Alden, then back to Elijah. You could stay put. We could try to challenge you more. But personally, I think you should move up 2 grades. Stella started to talk, but Alden stopped her. Let's see what Elijah thinks. Alden grabbed Stella's hand to calm her down. Elijah thought for a bit. It is true, I am bored. I feel like everything they are teaching me I already know. It makes me dislike school. I often feel like I don't want to be here. The days drag on. Even when I do all my homework, I finish before everyone. I hate this. Stella hugged Elijah. I had no idea, honey. I am so sorry. Alden hugged him too. So what do you think you would like to do, Elijah? Elijah hesitated. You know how much I love to read? Well, I have been writing also. Elijah pulled out a notebook. I would like to read to you part of my story that I am working on. Stella's eyes widened. She had no idea he was writing. Elijah opened his notebook. He began to read out loud. Sebastian knew that everyone on the train was dead. How he had survived, he did not know. Sebastian stood, mentally checking himself over. He had no cuts. Nothing was broken. He felt perfectly fine. How could that be? How could he step out of a wrecked train with absolutely no injuries? Sebastian was traveling alone by train to live with his aunt and uncle. His parents died 6 months ago in a freak accident. He was placed in an orphanage while the authorities searched for his uncle, his father's brother. Sebastian's father and his uncle had become estranged from one another. They lost touch, never having the chance to mend their differences. Sebastian forced his eyes forward. He saw the carnage. The train had zigzagged across the ground. Train cars folded like an accordion. Some of the cars were balanced precariously on top of each other. Sebastian saw fire bloom in one of the train cars further down the line. He had to move, and he had to move now. Sebastian grabbed a stray piece of rope, a small cooking pan that was tossed off to the side. He also gathered up some extra clothing that he came across. Sebastian took off his coat and quickly pulled on 2 extra sweaters. He grabbed a scarf, wrapping it around his neck, putting his coat back on. Sebastian knew he had to get away from the train. The chemicals that hung in the air could spark at any moment. Sebastian scanned the landscape. Behind him, chaos, but in front of him, it was strange how quiet it was. The snow looked pristine, untouched. The beauty all around him contradicted the reality he was now facing. Sebastian realized he was truly in the middle of nowhere, entirely alone. Elijah halted and spoke. I can read and write better than Caleb and David. While sitting in class listening to the other kids struggle to read easy books and being forced to sit and wait, constantly wait for the others to finish, I am beyond frustrated. Stella and Alden frowned. They knew Elijah was reading above his normal level, but they had no idea he was writing so well. They could clearly see Elijah's frustration. Elijah went on to say, I understand what I am reading completely. I do not know how I know all of this, but I do. It all comes very easily to me. Elijah looked from his mom to his dad. I would rather go up 2 grades. I am 8 now. I am almost as big as Caleb and David. We seem to get our height early in this family. I know I will be a bit smaller than the other kids, but I don't care about that. I want to do it. Stella leaned forward. She rested her hand on Elijah's. I loved your story. I cannot wait to read the whole thing. It was astounding, Stella enthused. Alden spoke. We are beyond proud of you, Elijah, Alden stated. Stella and Alden talked a bit. They weighed the pros and cons. In the end, they did what was best for Elijah. Mrs. Fitz gave Elijah his class schedule. She also handed Stella Caleb's and David's schedules as well, so they could compare them to see if they would be sharing any classes together. When they returned home and gave Caleb and David the good news, it did not go very well. Caleb and David scowled big time. They were not happy about this new development. Elijah knew trouble was brewing, so he went up to his room, followed by Francine. Ma! Dad, no way! We are going to get teased because he is in our grade, Caleb groaned. David spoke up also, growling fiercely. I knew that little dude was way too smart. He is going to make us look stupid, David scowled. Stella and Alden tried not to grin. Guys, Elijah is one smart kid. He has been making us all look kind of dumb for a while now, Alden said. Caleb and David looked at each other. They really could not fight that logic. It was true. Elijah had helped them with their homework last year, but they had kept that on the down low, need to know basis only. David looked at Caleb. You know, it won't be so bad. If there is something we don't understand, we can ask Mr. Smarty Pants. If anyone teases him or us, we can pound him, Caleb exclaimed, thumping on the table. No, there will be no pounding, Stella said. Alden started to laugh, but changed his facial expression back to seriousness when Stella glared at him. What are we supposed to do? Let them be mean to us? Caleb questioned. Alden looked at Stella. Yeah, what do we do about that? I do not want our boys being beat on, Alden said. Stella glared at Alden. White Cloud has a no fighting policy as well as no bullying policy. They take violence and bullying very seriously. So if anyone gives you to any trouble or Elijah, you let us know. We will take care of it or talk to a teacher. Caleb grabbed the 3 school schedules. Okay, we get it, Caleb grumbled. Caleb's face changed quickly. He turned to his twin. Hey, David, do you want to see what classes we have with Elijah? Stella and Alden looked at each other, shook their heads. It's like they're bipolar, Stella said in amazement. Alden agreed. I think they found their new study buddy, Alden declared. I better not find out that Elijah is doing your homework. Heads will roll, boys, Stella said firmly. Both boys had a sheepish look on their faces that quickly turned to evil grins. Alden turned to Stella. We better discuss this with Elijah just to be safe, Alden stated. Stella nodded and reached for a coffee. Okay, so next time we will be reading episode 19, and it is called Later That Evening. So, reading. So we did 17 and 18. So 19 is coming up. And you're gonna love it. All right, I'm gonna let you go. I was gonna read a little bit longer, but my computer is trying to die, so I will see you guys tomorrow. Have a great day. This is the Crafting Author. Bye.